Lieutenant Du Gen Park stood perfectly still on the roof of Seoul's military command center. His hands gripped his old but trustworthy binoculars tightly. The morning had started like any other Tuesday, but that changed 20 minutes ago, when the first lights appeared in the sky. "Sir, should we alert the Air Force?" asked Private Jai-ho, who stood nervously beside him. Do-hyun kept his eyes fixed on the strange lights that grew larger by the minute. "They already know," he said quietly. The sound of fighter jets in the distance confirmed his words. 3 F-35 jets streaked across the sky, their engines roaring as they climbed higher to investigate the mysterious visitors. The lights in the sky weren't like anything Do-hyun had seen before. They weren't the usual aircraft lights, nor were they satellites or space debris. These lights moved with purpose, and as they came closer, they revealed themselves to be ships. Massive ships that seemed to be made of pure crystal and light. "My God," whispered Jai-ho. "They're actually here. The aliens are actually here." Do-hyun lowered his binoculars and reached for his phone. His fingers moved quickly as he typed a message to command, describing everything he saw in detail. The crystalline ships, now clearly visible to everyone in Seoul, moved with an impossible grace. They made Earth's most advanced aircraft look like toy planes in comparison. The radio on his belt crackled to life. "All units, this is command. Stand by for emergency protocols. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Do-hyun watched as more ships appeared from behind the clouds. He counted them silently. 1, 2, 5, 12, 20 ships in total, each one bigger than a football field. They formed a perfect circle above the city, their crystal surfaces reflecting the morning sunlight in rainbow patterns across the sky. The streets below filled with people pointing cameras at the sky. Cars stopped in the middle of the road as drivers stepped out to stare upward. Despite the growing crowd, an eerie silence fell over the city. Even the birds had stopped singing. "Lieutenant," Jai-ho said, his voice shaking slightly. "Look at the main ship." The largest vessel, positioned at the front of the formation, began to change. Its crystal surface rippled like water, and a beam of pure white light shot down from its center. The beam touched the ground in the middle of Seoul Plaza, right in front of City Hall. As it hit the ground, it spread out to form a perfect circle about 10 meters wide. Do-hyun's radio crackled again. "All units in the downtown area, maintain your positions. Do not approach the light. Special forces are en route." But before the special forces could arrive, something emerged from the light. A figure took shape, tall, elegant, and seemingly made of the same crystal-like material as the ships. It stood nearly 3 meters high, its body transparent yet somehow solid. Where a face should be, there was only a swirling pattern of light. Do-hyun raised his binoculars again, focusing on the being. As he watched, more figures emerged from the light, each one similar to the first but slightly different in size and the patterns of light within them. The first being raised its arm, and suddenly, every screen in the city, from smartphones to giant advertising displays, came to life with the same message. "People of Earth, we are the luminary. We come in peace to share our advanced civilization with yours." The message repeated in different languages, cycling through Korean, English, Chinese, and others. Do-hyun noticed something odd about the aliens' choice of words. They didn't say they wanted to meet Earth's civilization or learn about it. They said they wanted to share their advanced civilization. The distinction made him uneasy. His phone buzzed with a new message. "All military personnel report to nearest command center immediately." "Let's go," Do-hyun said to Jai-ho, but before they could reach the roof access door, something else happened. One of the alien beings pointed at an approaching military helicopter. A beam of light shot from its finger, touching the helicopter. Instantly, all of the aircraft's electronics died. The helicopter dropped from the sky like a stone, and only the pilot's quick thinking, engaging the emergency mechanical controls, prevented a disaster. The aircraft made a rough but survivable landing in a nearby park. The alien's voice boomed across the city, no longer needing screens to communicate. Your flying machines are quaint. We have disabled their electronic systems for safety reasons. We mean no harm, but your technology is too primitive and unstable to be trusted. Do-hyun felt his face grow hot with anger and embarrassment. That helicopter carried some of South Korea's best pilots, and the aliens had swatted it aside like a bothersome fly. Inside the command center, chaos reigned. Officers rushed back and forth. Phones rang constantly, and dozens of screens showed news feeds from around the world. Similar ships had appeared over every major city: New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow, and more. General Kim stood at the center of the storm, his face grave as he looked at the assembled officers. The president has called an emergency meeting of all military leaders. The Americans, Chinese, Russians, everyone's gathering. These visitors, he paused, looking at a screen showing the crystalline ships. They may say they come in peace, but they've already demonstrated they can disable our technology at will. Do-hyun raised his hand. Sir, permission to speak freely. The general nodded. Their message mentioned sharing their advanced civilization with us. Not meeting us, not learning from us, but sharing their civilization with us. And they call our technology primitive and unstable. This sounds more like colonization than first contact. A murmur of agreement passed through the room. The general's frown deepened. Lieutenant Park, good observation. We've noticed the same thing. Their choice of words is concerning. Suddenly, all the screens in the command center changed. The alien being appeared, its crystalline form glowing with inner light. Greetings, military leaders of Earth. We understand your concern, but please, put aside your primitive weapons. They cannot harm us, and we would hate to see your people injured by their instability. The alien's head tilted slightly, the swirling lights within it forming what might have been an expression of amusement. Your projectile weapons, your explosive devices, your simple chemical propulsion systems, they are like children's toys to us. We have mastered energy itself. Our ships are protected by fields that could withstand the force of a small sun. Your weapons would only embarrass you. Do-hyun's hands clenched into fists. The alien's voice carried a tone of patronizing superiority that made his blood boil. Around him, other officers showed similar reactions to the alien's words. General Kim stepped forward, his voice steady and diplomatic. We appreciate your concern for our safety. However, as representatives of Earth's nations, we must insist on maintaining our defensive capabilities until proper diplomatic channels are established. The alien's light patterns swirled faster. Of course. Keep your toys if they make you feel safer. We will begin sharing our civilization's advancements soon. Your people will quickly see how unnecessary such primitive tools are. As the screens returned to normal, Do-hyun couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just been patted on the head like a small child. He looked around the command center, seeing the same mixture of humiliation and anger on his fellow officers' faces. Sir, he said to General Kim, what are our orders? The general straightened his uniform. For now, we observe and gather information. Everyone, I want detailed reports on every capability these visitors demonstrate. Pay special attention to their technology, their behavior, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Do-hyun nodded and returned to his post on the roof. The crystalline ships still hung in the sky, their surfaces now projecting massive holograms showing scenes of their civilization. Cities made of light, vehicles that flew without any visible means of propulsion, beings of pure energy walking among crystal spires that reached into the clouds. As he watched, Do-hyun remembered something his grandfather, a veteran of multiple wars, used to say. The most dangerous enemy is the one who underestimates you. Looking at the aliens' displays of technological superiority, Do-hyun allowed himself a small smile. These luminary, for all their advanced technology, were making that very mistake. They saw humanity's weapons as primitive toys, not worth a second thought. That could prove to be their biggest error. The day continued, and more alien ships arrived. They positioned themselves above every major military installation, their presence both beautiful and threatening. The luminary continued their broadcasts, showing more and more of their advanced civilization, each display making Earth's achievements seem smaller and more primitive in comparison. But Du Hyun noticed something interesting. While the aliens were quick to demonstrate their mastery of energy and light, they never actually engaged with physical matter. Their ships never landed, instead hovering and using light beams to interact with the ground. The crystalline beings never touched anything, maintaining their position just above the surface. He began taking detailed notes. Every observation, no matter how small, could be important. As the sun set over Seoul, casting orange light through the crystal ships and creating spectacular light shows in the sky, Du Hyun couldn't help but wonder, what would happen if humanity's primitive weapons turned out to be more effective than the luminary expected? He would soon find out. The night brought no rest for Earth's military forces. As Du Hyun stood his watch, he saw more ships arriving, their crystal surfaces now glowing with internal light that illuminated the clouds. The luminary had positioned themselves above every strategic location on Earth, their presence a constant reminder of their technological superiority. But in his gut, Du Hyun felt something wasn't right. No species travels across the stars just to show off their technology. The luminary had a purpose for coming to Earth, and he suspected their patronizing displays of superiority were just the beginning. He was right. Captain Jae-yeon Kim hadn't slept in 36 hours. She sat in her small office at the intelligence division, surrounded by screens showing data from around the world. 3 empty coffee cups sat on her desk, evidence of her long night studying the luminaries' behavior patterns. Something about their actions didn't make sense. If they were so advanced, why did they care so much about showing off their technology? True confidence didn't need constant displays of superiority. Her computer beeped. A new message appeared from one of her contacts in Russia's space program. Jae-yeon's eyes widened as she read it. The Russians had found something important in their old space telescope data. She grabbed her tablet and rushed to the emergency meeting of the United Earth Defense Council. The meeting room was already full when she arrived. Military leaders from 20 countries sat around a large table, their faces tired but alert. Lieutenant Do Hyun Park stood in one corner, chosen to represent the South Korean ground forces because of his detailed observations of the luminary. "Excuse me," Jae-yeon said, slightly out of breath. "I have important information about our visitors." General Williams from the United States nodded. "Go ahead, Captain Kim." Jae-yeon connected her tablet to the main screen. The Russians found something in their space telescope data from 6 months ago. "Look at this." She pulled up an image showing a distant galaxy. "This is the direction the luminary came from. Now watch what happens when we enhance the image." The screen showed a series of photos taken over several days. Bright flashes of light appeared in the galaxy, like small explosions. Those flashes, Jae-yeon explained, matched the energy signature of the luminary ships exactly. But here's the interesting part. She zoomed in on one area. After each flash, a planet in that system went dark. All signs of civilization on those worlds disappeared. The room fell silent. Major Ta-won Lee, South Korea's top expert in weapons technology, leaned forward. "Are you saying they've done this before?" Jae-yeon nodded. "I believe the luminary are not visitors. They're conquerors. They've been moving from galaxy to galaxy, targeting what they call primitive civilizations." As if responding to her words, every screen in the room suddenly lit up with the now familiar crystalline form of a luminary. This one seemed larger than the others, its light patterns more complex. "Clever humans," the alien said, its voice carrying that same tone of amused superiority. "We wondered how long it would take you to discover our true purpose." General Williams stood up. "If you're here to conquer Earth, You should know we won't surrender without a fight. The luminary's light patterns swirled in what seemed like laughter. Fight. With what? Your primitive weapons. Your simple projectile devices. We have watched your military exercises. Your most powerful weapons rely on chemical explosions and basic physics. They are toys compared to our mastery of energy. The alien's form grew brighter, but we are not cruel. We offer you a choice. Surrender your sovereignty to us, and we will guide your species into a new age of enlightenment. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate just how useless your weapons truly are. The screens went dark. The room erupted in angry shouts and arguments until General Williams banged his hand on the table. Quiet. Captain Kim, what else have you learned about their previous conquests? Jai-yun pulled up more data. They follow the same pattern everywhere. First, they appear over population centers. Then they demonstrate their technological superiority. Finally, they offer the same choice: surrender or face destruction. Has any civilization successfully fought them off? Someone asked. Not according to the data we have, Jai-yun answered. But she paused, looking at her newest findings. Something interesting happens every time they attack. They always disable electronic systems first, just like they did with our helicopter yesterday. They never engage in physical combat. They rely entirely on energy weapons and shields. Major Taiwan Lee suddenly sat up straighter. Wait a minute. He walked to the main screen and pointed at an image of a luminary ship. Look at their shields. They're energy-based, designed to stop plasma weapons and other energy attacks. Has anyone actually tried hitting them with simple physical projectiles? Lieutenant Do-hyun Park spoke up from his corner. Sir, I noticed yesterday that they never physically touch anything. They always maintain a small distance from solid objects. Taiwan's eyes lit up. That's it. Their entire defensive system is built around stopping energy weapons. They probably haven't faced a civilization that still uses physical projectiles in thousands of years. They're so advanced, they've forgotten about basic kinetic energy. General Williams frowned. Are you suggesting we might be able to hurt them with regular bullets and shells? Think about it, Taiwan said, growing excited. Their shields are designed to stop energy beams and plasma, but a simple lead bullet, or a tungsten core artillery shell, that's just a piece of metal moving really fast. Their fancy energy shields might not be calibrated to stop something so primitive. Jai-yun quickly typed on her tablet. The data supports this theory. In all their previous conquests, they targeted civilizations that had already developed energy weapons. We might be the first civilization they've encountered in a long time that still relies primarily on kinetic weapons. The room grew quiet as everyone considered this possibility. The luminaries' arrogance, their dismissal of Earth's weapons as primitive toys, might actually be their weakness. We need to test this theory, General Williams said, but we'll only get one chance. If we're wrong, they'll destroy us immediately. Do-hyun stepped forward. Sir, I volunteer to lead the test mission. My unit can set up in a hidden position near one of their smaller ships. One shot from a sniper rifle should tell us if physical projectiles can penetrate their shields. General Williams looked around the room. All in favor. Every hand went up. Very well, the general said. Lieutenant Park, choose your best sniper. Captain Kim, continue gathering data. Major Lee, I want you to calculate the exact velocity and mass needed to maximize our chance of success. If this works, we'll need to coordinate a global response immediately. As the meeting ended, Jai-yun felt a mix of hope and fear. The luminaries' arrogance in dismissing Earth's weapons might be their downfall, but if this gamble failed, humanity would pay a terrible price. She worked through the night, gathering more data about the luminaries' shields. Every piece of information confirmed their theory. The aliens relied so heavily on energy-based technology that they seemed to have forgotten about simple physics. Their ship's shields produced complex energy fields that could stop plasma bolts and laser beams, but they showed no signs of having any defense against solid objects. The next morning, as she watched Du Hyun's team set up their position, Jia thought about how often in human history overconfident empires had fallen to primitive opponents. The luminary saw humans as simple creatures playing with toys. They never considered that those toys might be exactly what was needed to defeat them. Major Tawan's calculations arrived on her tablet. According to his math, even a standard sniper round should have enough kinetic energy to penetrate the luminary shields. Their energy fields simply weren't designed to handle physical impacts. "All units in position," crackled Du Hyun's voice over the secure radio, awaiting final authorization. General Williams took a deep breath. "Lieutenant Park, you have authorization to fire when ready. Good luck. The fate of humanity may depend on this shot." Jia held her breath as she watched through the surveillance camera. In a hidden position on a hillside overlooking Seoul, Du Hyun's sniper took aim at the smallest luminary ship. The crystalline vessel hovered peacefully, its shields shimmering with beautiful patterns of light. The sniper squeezed the trigger. The crack of the rifle echoed across the valley, and humanity held its breath, waiting to see if their primitive weapons could do what no advanced energy weapon had managed: hurt the invincible luminary. The answer would change everything. Time seemed to stop as the sniper's bullet flew through the air. Colonel Haenul Choi watched through his binoculars from the command post. His hands gripped the binoculars so tight that his knuckles turned white. The bullet struck the luminary ship's shield. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, to everyone's amazement, the bullet passed straight through the energy field like it wasn't even there. It hit the crystalline surface of the ship with a sharp crack. A small hole appeared in the ship's side. The luminary vessel wobbled in the air, its perfect hover disturbed for the first time. A high-pitched sound filled the air as light poured from the hole. "Direct hit." Lieutenant Du Hyun Park's voice crackled over the radio. The shield didn't stop the bullet. The luminary ship's reaction was immediate. It rose higher in the air, its light pattern swirling in what seemed like panic. Other ships nearby turned toward the damaged vessel, their own shields glowing brighter. Colonel Choi grabbed his radio. "All units, Operation Groundbreaker is now active. I repeat, Operation Groundbreaker is active." Around the world, military forces that had been waiting for this signal sprang into action. Artillery crews that had been hiding in forests and mountains unveiled their big guns. Tank companies rolled out of their hidden positions. Infantry units readied their rifles. The luminary's voice boomed across the sky, but this time it carried a note of confusion instead of superiority. "What is this? How did you penetrate our shields? Your primitive weapons cannot harm us." Colonel Choi smiled as he gave the order. "All units, open fire." The hills around Seoul erupted with the thunder of artillery. Shells filled the air, their simple metal casings carrying tungsten cores, just basic pieces of metal moving very fast, exactly what Major Tawan had suggested. The luminary ship's shields lit up brilliantly as they tried to stop the attack. But just like the sniper's bullet, the shells passed straight through the energy fields. Explosions bloomed across the ship's crystal surfaces. Some of the smaller vessels began to fall from the sky, their perfect formation broken. "Impossible," the luminary voice shouted. "These are just simple projectiles. They cannot defeat our advanced technology." But they were wrong. All across the world, similar scenes played out. In the streets of New York, tanks fired their main guns at the hovering ships. In the mountains of Switzerland, hidden artillery positions revealed themselves. From the deserts of Egypt to the forests of Russia, humanity's primitive weapons proved devastatingly effective against the aliens' advanced shields. Captain Jae-yun Kim watched from the command center as data poured in from around the globe. "Their shields," she explained to the officers around her, "are designed to stop energy weapons like lasers and plasma. They're completely useless against simple physical objects moving at high speed." The luminary tried to fight back. They fired their energy weapons, sending beams of light that melted tanks and vaporized buildings. but they couldn't hit what they couldn't see. Human forces had learned from watching them. They stayed hidden, used cover, and kept moving. Major Ta-1 ran into the command center with new calculations. Their ship's crystal structure is actually very fragile, he reported. They relied so much on their shields that they never made their ships physically strong. Even regular rifle bullets can cause serious damage if they hit the right spot. Colonel Choi ordered infantry units to move forward with their primitive rifles. The luminary had laughed at these simple weapons, but now the sound of gunfire filled the air as bullets pierced their supposedly impenetrable defenses. The alien ships tried to rise higher, to escape the barrage of physical projectiles. But Earth's militaries had planned for this. High-altitude anti-aircraft guns, their simple shells requiring no electronic guidance, filled the sky with metal. The luminary's beautiful crystal ships began falling one by one. "We need ground teams," Colonel Choi ordered. "Some of them are going to crash, and we need to capture any technology we can." Lieutenant Du Hyun led his unit toward the nearest fallen ship. The crystal vessel lay in a park, its once perfect surface now cracked and broken. The luminary crew emerged, their energy forms flickering with what looked like fear. They raised their hands in a very human gesture of surrender when they saw the rifles pointed at them. "How?" one of them asked. "How did you defeat our superior technology?" Du Hyun walked closer, his rifle ready. "You forgot the basics," he said. "You were so proud of your energy weapons and shields that you forgot about simple physics. A bullet doesn't care how advanced your energy field is. It just needs to be heavy enough and fast enough." In the command center, Jae-yun watched as similar scenes played out worldwide. The luminary ships were falling everywhere. Their perfect formations broke apart as humanity's primitive weapons proved to be their undoing. Colonel Choi received reports from other commands. The Chinese army had captured 3 ships. The American forces had taken down the largest vessel over New York. Russian artillery had cleared their skies completely. Even smaller nations were succeeding with their basic weapons. The luminary's main command ship still hung over Seoul, its massive form now showing signs of damage from the constant barrage. Its voice came again, but the arrogant tone was gone. "Stop, please stop. We surrender." Colonel Choi picked up the radio. "All units, hold fire but maintain positions. Let's hear what they have to say." The luminary commander's voice shook as it spoke. This has never happened before. No species has ever breached our shields. How did you know they couldn't stop physical objects?" Jae-yun stepped forward to answer. "You told us yourselves. You kept calling our weapons primitive and simple. You were so proud of your energy technology that you showed us your weakness. We just had to pay attention." The truth hit the aliens hard. Their arrogance, their dismissal of humanity's technology as primitive, had been their downfall. They had forgotten that sometimes the simplest solution was the most effective. Colonel Choi turned to his officers. "Status report. 60% of their ships have been destroyed or captured," Jae-yun reported. "The rest are damaged and unable to escape Earth's atmosphere. Their ground forces are surrendering everywhere. Their energy weapons are powerful, but they can't hit what they can't see, and our primitive bullets work just fine against them." Major Ta-1 added, "Their entire defensive strategy was built around stopping energy weapons. They never expected to face an advanced civilization that still used physical projectiles. It's like they forgot that kinetic energy exists." The day wasn't over yet. There were still battles being fought around the world. But the tide had turned decisively. Humanity's primitive weapons had proved to be exactly what was needed to defeat an overconfident enemy. Colonel Choi looked at the damaged luminary ships in the sky. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "The counterattack continues until every alien ship is either captured or destroyed. Show them just how effective our primitive weapons can be." As the sun began to set, the sound of artillery fire still echoed across the city. Each explosion marked another victory for humanity's primitive but deadly effective weapons. The luminary's greatest mistake had been underestimating the simplicity and power of basic physics. Sometimes, the old ways were the best ways after all. Master Sergeant Young Mi Kang led her team through the broken doors of the fallen Luminary command ship. The once beautiful crystal walls were now cracked and dull. Their boots crunched on shattered crystal fragments as they moved deeper into the alien vessel. "Keep your weapons ready," Young Mai told her soldiers. Their energy weapons might still work. The inside of the ship was strange. There were no chairs, no controls, nothing that looked like normal ship equipment. Everything was made of crystal, with channels of light running through the walls like glowing veins. Lieutenant Do Hyun Park's voice came through her radio. "Sergeant Kang, be careful in there. We're picking up energy readings from the central chamber." Young Mi checked her rifle. The simple weapon had proven more valuable than any advanced technology in this war. "Copy that, sir. We're approaching the center now." Her team reached a large round room. In the middle, several luminaries stood in a circle. Their energy forms flickered weakly, but they still glowed with inner light. The aliens turned to face the humans, their light patterns swirling in what Young Mai had learned to recognize as distress. "Do not shoot," one of the luminaries said. "We surrender. We still cannot understand how this happened." Young Mi kept her rifle aimed steady. "Hands where we can see them, or whatever you use for hands." The aliens raised their glowing limbs. One of them spoke again, its voice lacking the arrogance it had shown just days ago. "Your weapons, they are so simple. Just pieces of metal propelled by chemical explosions. How do they defeat our advanced shields?" "Sometimes simple is better," Young Mai said. "You were so busy showing off your fancy energy weapons that you forgot about basic physics." At the military command center, Captain Jae-yun Kim watched the scene through the soldiers' body cameras. She turned to Major Taiwan Lee, who was studying data from the captured ships. "What have we learned about their technology?" she asked. Taiwan looked up from his screens. "It's amazing. Their energy technology is incredibly advanced, but they have almost no defenses against physical attacks. It's like they evolved past the need for solid matter and forgot it still exists." Colonel Hae-Nul Choi entered the room, looking tired but satisfied. "Final reports are coming in from around the world. 87% of their fleet has been captured or destroyed. The rest have surrendered. Humanity has won." Jae-yun pulled up a global map showing the results of the battle. Green dots marked captured ships, red showed destroyed ones, and yellow indicated surrendered vessels. The screen was covered in these markers. "The Russians just finished securing their last ship," she reported. "The Americans have captured their command vessel mostly intact. The Chinese have 3 ships they're studying. Even smaller nations managed to bring down several ships each. All with simple bullets and shells," Taiwan added, shaking his head in amazement. "Their shields could stop a plasma blast or a laser beam, but they couldn't handle a regular sniper bullet." Young Mi's voice came through the command center speakers, central chamber secured. "Luminary leadership is in custody. They're asking to talk." Colonel Choi straightened his uniform. "Put them through." The main screen lit up, showing the captured luminary leaders. Their once proud forms seemed smaller now, their light patterns dim and slow. "People of Earth," the lead alien said, its voice humble, "we have transmitted our complete surrender to all your world's governments. We have learned a hard lesson about assuming technological superiority means total superiority." Do Hyun, who had joined the command center staff, stepped forward. "Why did you really come to Earth? Tell us the truth this time." The aliens' light patterns shifted in what looked like shame. "We have traveled the galaxy for thousands of years, conquering what we saw as primitive civilizations. We thought that mastering energy meant we had mastered everything. We forgot that there are many paths to advancement." Jae-yun studied the alien carefully. "You didn't just forget. You became arrogant. You stopped considering that simple solutions might work better than complex ones." "Yes," the alien admitted. "We looked at your civilization and saw only what you hadn't achieved yet. We didn't see what you had mastered. Your weapons seemed primitive to us because they used simple physics. We never imagined that simplicity would be our undoing. Colonel Choi walked closer to the screen. What happens now? The luminary leader's light dimmed further. We have sent messages to our empire. We told them that Earth is not to be attacked. We told them that the primitives have weapons that can defeat our greatest technology. Many will not believe it until they see the evidence. Show them the gun camera footage. Young Me suggested from her position in the captured ship. Show them how regular bullets went right through your shields. The aliens' light patterns swirled faster. Yes, yes, we will show them. They must understand. Perhaps we can learn from you, instead of trying to conquer you. Over the next few days, the world began to recover from the brief but intense war. Cleanup crews removed fallen crystal ships from cities. Scientists studied the captured vessels, learning about the luminary's advanced energy technology, while also confirming how vulnerable it was to simple physical attacks. 1 week after the first shot was fired, the United Earth Defense Council met again. This time, they had a new task: deciding what to do with their prisoners and their captured technology. The luminary have shared their star charts. Jai-yun reported to the council. They've marked all the civilizations they've conquered. They've also promised to help free these worlds. Can we trust them? Someone asked. Do-hyun, now promoted to captain, answered, they know what will happen if they lie. Our primitive weapons work just fine against their ships, and now we have their technology too. They won't risk another fight. Major Ta-won shared his latest findings. We've learned a lot from studying their ships. Their energy technology is amazing, but they also learned from us. They're already working on new shields that can stop physical objects. They're calling it primitive wisdom, going back to basics. Colonel Choi smiled at that. Sometimes you have to go backward to move forward. They forgot that simple solutions can be the best solutions. The meeting ended with a plan for the future. Earth would keep some captured ships as insurance against future attacks. The luminary would help humanity understand their energy technology, while humanity would teach them about the importance of remembering basic principles. Lieutenant Do-hyun stood at his old observation post, looking at the sunset through his trusty binoculars. The sky was clear now, no crystal ships blocking the view. Next to him, Captain Jai-yun Kim looked through the data from their latest studies of luminary technology. You know what's funny? She said. They really did have superior technology. They just forgot that superior doesn't always mean better. Do-hyun lowered his binoculars. My grandfather used to say that the most dangerous enemy is the one who underestimates you. The luminary made that mistake. They thought their advanced technology made them invincible. And all it took to prove them wrong was a simple bullet, Jai-yun added with a smile. As night fell over Seoul, the city lights came on one by one. Somewhere in the Scientific Research Center, Major Ta-won was probably still studying the captured ships. In the military bases, Sergeant Young Me's team was training other units on how to fight energy beings with conventional weapons. The world had changed. Humanity had faced its first alien invasion and won. Not with advanced technology, not with energy weapons or force fields, but with simple physics and basic weapons that any first-year science student could understand. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Sometimes being primitive meant remembering what really worked. And sometimes a simple bullet could teach an advanced civilization its most important lesson: never underestimate anyone, no matter how primitive their weapons might seem.